In a week of political contrast, two defining stories unfold across continents. In Egypt, here, millions of citizens cast their ballots in the first phase of the 2025 House of Representatives elections, a nationwide exercise of civic spirit and logistical skill hailed by the National Election Authority as marked by eager participation, robust oversight, and skilled logistics. Meanwhile, in the United States, a historic government shutdown, the longest in American history, testing American institutions and bipartisan resolve until a surprise Senate vote edges towards a breakthrough may finally end as a bipartisan deal emerges in Congress. Tonight, we look at how elections and negotiations reveal the limits of democracy under pressure and what both moments tell us about power, participation, and political endurance. Join us as we analyze these pivotal events with expert insights from Cairo and Washington. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Welcome to In Focus. The 2025 House of Representatives elections in Egypt have drawn significant international media attention, with around 86 media outlets from 32 countries covering the process, according to Egypt Today. Diya Rashwan, chairman of the State Information Service known as SIS, highlighted extensive coverage by global news agencies, TV channels, and online platforms, portraying the elections as a pivotal political moment for Egypt. The coverage emphasizes the orderly conduct, security, and stability during voting, facilitated by the National Elections Authority and judicial oversight. Reports also focused on the role of the new parliament in enhancing transparency, economic legislation, and political participation amid regional and international transformations. Notably, the elections took place alongside major national events like the Grand Egyptian Museum inauguration, fostering strong national pride. Egyptian expatriates showed remarkable overseas voting turnout, particularly in Arab and European countries, underscoring a commitment to consolidating national stability. Egypt's parliamentary elections have entered their decisive stage. Over 2 days, November the 10th and 11th, voters across 14 governorates took part in the first phase of the House of Representatives elections, the largest political event since the constitutional cycle began. To unpack the meaning behind the numbers and the messages, we're joined by Mr. Haitham Omran, political science professor. Welcome, sir, to Q News. Now, Professor Omran, of course, thank you for joining us. And to begin with, how significant is this first phase for Egypt's political landscape heading into 2026?
Good evening. Of course, these elections these represent a huge democratic entitlement to the citizens. Here we have lots of citizens that are counting on the upcoming parliament to make sure that everything that will be going well, with all the tensions that are in that are going on in the region. And so this shows how the country will move forward with the internal affairs or our foreign affairs, and how we will face the threats that that we'll be facing from outside. And so yeah, in around almost 2 hours, we will officially declare the elections over, but we saw huge turnouts here from women and from the youth, and this shows that the citizens are aware of their democratic right and duty towards their country, and this shows that they are really aware, and that the campaigns that they had to raise awareness were really that important, and that the citizens are capable of choosing who to represent them according to what they feel they need under the support of the Egyptian administration.
Mhm. Sir, the NEA emphasized eager participation and robust oversight. What practical measures on the ground ensure this supervision and transparency?
Course, having judicial monitoring, this actually reflected trust in the elections, and showed that the citizens will be the only ones to determine who will be representing them, and this shows increasing trust in the political landscape, and this shows that we are united here, and that the state authorities are working in coordination and are united towards the benefit of the country and towards the democratic entitlements of the citizens, and they have rooted the importance of such engagement in such political events. We saw other elections before and some constitutional reforms, but here we see the largest political event now, and it is one more block to the foundations that we've built in the past years. And yes, as I said, this coordination between all state authorities and judicial monitoring and civilian monitoring, this is all very important and shows transparency, and uh, the government being sure that they are able to pull this off, and then there is some kind of warmth between the citizens and voters and between the candidates.
True. With 14 governorates voting and over 5,600 polling stations in operation, what were the logistical challenges and how were they handled?
Of course, there were some logistic obstacles, like the overcrowd and some committees opening a bit late, and so yes, but here as we saw that around the clock, the the chairs of the committees were reporting any comments or any complaints that they have received from the voters, or any other obstacles that they have seen, and they tried to eliminate all the issues that may stand in the way of citizens choosing who to represent them in the future. And this wasn't it wasn't like this before, but we saw the authorities working around the clock. We saw the monitoring rooms and the operation rooms. They are monitoring everything, and they are following up and uh, responding instantly, so that they can eliminate any obstacles that may hinder any of the committees from working. And so yes, there is huge cooperation with the authorities and the citizens also, so that this honors Egypt's efforts all over the past years up till now, when we added one more block, and this shows how democracy is very important in the Egyptian country.
Mhm. Professor Omran, many international outlets cited a high national spirit. From your own observation, what drove this visible enthusiasm among the voters, especially women?
The transparency, integrity, and the idea of that citizens can now choose who to present them in the parliament, and they feel the right to protect it. This wasn't here before, and there was some kind of yeah, people weren't really participating in elections like we saw this today. There weren't lots of competing parties, and only one party took over. But now, with we have more than parties, and we have judicial monitoring, and the citizens can really trust who will be representing them, and so citizens now feel that they really are effective in the political equation, and that they have the right to choose who will represent them in the parliament. And so this actually reflected integrity, transparency, and the voters can sense this and they can feel this. And so this is why we have this huge turnout, and we also saw all that all the candidates need to say and to show us what will they offer us in the parliament and why they deserve to be a candidate in the first place, and this made them feel more reassured. And so this is actually such a victory for Egypt and for the political life in Egypt.
I would take it from here, sir. Let's talk about representation. 25% of seats are reserved for women. How might this quota shape the composition and debate in the new House?
Of course, having some kind of quota for women or having chairs that are designated to women wasn't here before, but now we are trying to represent lots of new things like women, Christians. We have both males and females, Muslim, Christians, and so on. And yeah, we want to hear them in the parliament, and we want them to participate in the legislative process. We want equality here between the two genders and between the religions, and so this is a reflection, and it is actually having the democratic entitlement rooted in the citizens. And when they see that some of like for example women didn't get a choice before, they were kind of neglected, and so now this isn't happening and the citizens now feel more reassured. We have women from of all ages, and this shows that the Egyptian women actually play a crucial role here in our lives in general. And so yes, this will be very positive for women, for where women stand with such, taking such positions.
Professor Omran, now the second phase begins November 24th and 25th. What issues or lessons from phase one might influence the turnout or administration in phase two?
Of course, the turnout percentage here it is actually founded on how we can assure the citizens and convince them. And so it has to do with lots of things actually. Also, the voters need to be convinced and need to really want those candidates to represent them. And so yes, I think actually that the second phase will have higher turnout, and this will enhance democracy and democracy rights. And yeah, we have some things that we can actually consider.
Yes, I'd like to
learn.
thank you so much, Professor Haitham Omran, political science professor in Cairo. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. Ladies and gentlemen, now we move to a live broadcast of a joint press conference between Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and French President Emmanuel Macron.
And transparency and state sharing. And here we want to reaffirm our thanks to Saudi Arabia, France, Britain, and all the partners here for their role to get the international recognitions, and to USA, Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar for their humanitarian and political mediation, and to Algeria and the Arab countries for their support in the Security Council. We reconfirm our full readiness to work with the U.S. administration and President Donald Trump and with our international partners to implement all the peace efforts that we need in a clear time frame and international guarantees that are very strict on the foundation of state sovereignty. And we call for all the countries that haven't recognized Palestine yet to do so. And we have to remind you that Palestine has actually recognized Israel twice. And to the Israeli people, we say again, we reiterate future is tied to peace, not war, and real security doesn't come unless you recognize the Palestinians' right for a free country. Two countries who live side by side in security and peace. And to the Palestinian people, to our great people, freedom is closer than ever, and independence is coming because of your you believed in your cause. Your Excellency the President, thank you for everything that you have done. Thank you for your efforts and your support, and thank you France for government and people for supporting peace and security. Your Highness, Your Excellency, we totally agree on founding it immediately, and so at any time that you are ready, we are too. And we also thank you for the aid that you have sent to Palestine and the efforts that you have put with the humanitarian causes. These are new efforts. Thank you so much. Thank you for the French people and to you personally. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a press conference between French President Emmanuel Macron and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, where Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas reiterated that peace and freedom are very close and that the road towards freedom is closer than ever. Over the past days, the Egyptian voters yesterday and today, the Egyptian voters finalized their parliamentary choices in the first phase across the Atlantic. American politics faces a potential breakthrough. In Washington, a historic impasse may finally be breaking after over 40 days of a paralyzed federal government. Key Senate Democrats have crossed party lines to vote for a government reopening package. The bipartisan deal reached to end the longest federal government shutdown in U.S. history marks a significant political moment. Politico stated that key Senate Democrats, including Tim Kaine, joined Republicans to pass the funding package with a 60-40 vote, reopening many federal agencies through January 2026. Despite this breakthrough, the deal excludes extensions for Affordable Care Act premier tax credits, fueling dissent among progressive Democrats and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's opposition. The House now faces the challenge of approving the package amid pressure from conservative leadership wary of further concessions. The agreement guarantees back pay for furloughed workers and halts layoffs, providing relief but leaving broader budget and policy conflicts unresolved. This event exposes fractures within the Democratic caucuses while offering Republicans control of the legislative agenda moving forward. In the United States, the federal government shutdown that began on October the 1st has stretched into the longest in American history. But over the weekend, a bipartisan Senate vote, 60-40, approved a funding bill to reopen key federal agencies. What's remarkable? 8 Democrats broke party ranks to join Republicans in ending the deadlock, signaling deep shifts within the political landscape. Joining us now from Washington is Mr. Dan Rene, a political researcher. Mr. Rene, welcome to Q News. Now, the shutdown has lasted more than 40 days. Why did this particular standoff drag on so long?
Well, again, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, we are entering into day 42 of a time where this again, it's a partial government shutdown. Not everything is shut down, but it's enough that it's causing extreme pain for many everyday Americans, including our air traffic controllers, TSA agents, and other people that rely on government services. I'm with you today from Virginia. We have Virginia and Maryland, which have tens of thousands of government employees on either side of Washington, D.C., not to mention the other government employees that are throughout the country that have been suffering for more than a month. And when you're talking about going without a paycheck for more than a month and still expecting to show up to work, it can be incredibly frustrating. It can also be incredibly difficult to put gas in your car, to get childcare, or to buy groceries.
Yes.
And so the fact of the matter is that this was an unnecessary exercise in just causing extreme pain to the American people in an effort to get what the Democrats wanted and keeping the government closed to do so. And it's a situation where if they had been able to get away with this, if the Republicans had somehow caved into doing this, it would not stop this from happening again from either side or either party to one day decide, well, you know what, if I can't get everything I want, regardless of the amount of political power I have, I am going to shut the government down and hold the American people hostage over this. It's not okay to do that. And the Democrats have learned that lesson the hard way. And now they're going to have to deal with the extreme progressive, the extreme liberal part of their party, the Mondamis of the world, the Democrat socialists and the communists that are taking over the Democratic Party.
Okay, so the Senate's 60-40 vote marks a turning point. So what political calculations led some Democrats to cross the aisle?
Well, again, the ones that we saw that came over, I'm thinking the ones that are a little less threatened by opponents from the left. We saw Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia come over. Again, Virginia is incredibly reliable on the federal government, and Tim Kaine is one that surely understood that Virginians are certainly hurting in this. Again, we saw John Fetterman from New Jersey, who was from the very beginning a Democrat who was not about to allow this hostage taking of the American people, and to show that indeed that there are ways to do these things. There are ways and times and places to negotiate, but shutting down the government for issues that are unrelated to the processes of running the government is just simply unacceptable.
Yes. So let's talk about the deal's substance. What exactly does it fund, and for how long?
So it looks right now, the what has passed the Senate, again, and what they were debating before was going to run out at the end of November. But the fact that they spent 40 days to negotiate it, even if they had been able to pass what the House had passed before, we would have been here at this same place probably 2 weeks later. But the new agreements will extend funding until a little bit after January for some processes, for some spending bills, and we'll have to revisit that back in January. But in the meantime, the Republicans have agreed to hold some of these votes separate from keeping the government open, which is entirely appropriate. If they want to do a vote on health care, if they want to do a vote on subsidies and other items, doing so separate from keeping the government operations going will happen. And I think that that's an honest and right thing to do, to allow to have these issues brought up. So they'll be brought up. Whether they pass or they fail will remain to be seen. But the government will be at least open to do this. And, the air traffic controllers will be able to be paid. The TSA agents will be able to be paid. But we have to make sure that the Congress gets back to vote on this. And I think probably by this time next week, we'll see a bill on the president's desk to reopen things.
Okay. Mr. Renee, the bill guarantees retroactive pay and holds layoffs. So how significant is that for the federal workforce and public sentiment?
Well, it means, I mean, this is exactly what is required by law. The fact is these government workers, it was by no fault of their own that they were furloughed or that they had to not be able to work if funding for the government had run out. And in a lot of these cases, we saw government workers that still had to show up to work and not be paid. And that's why we're seeing the chaos for traveling right now, where you've got air traffic controllers and TSA agents who've now missed 2 paychecks. We've seen members of the military that are going to be missing paychecks, not only in the United States, but including our military who are serving overseas. Again, this is again completely unacceptable. We've seen, benefits for those that have food assistance to get groceries and food. That was threatened to be cut off as well. So again, these types of things are again incredibly painful for the American people. But again, these government workers, again, they are caught in the middle of this, and you can't expect someone to show up for work and still work and not get paid for yeah. And the other thing is that Trump has alluded that some of these air traffic controllers that were staying in and working hard and even overtaking some additional shifts by working more than they would have normally to cover up the shortfalls. They're going to try to find some bonuses for those, it sounds like, that will show that the appreciation of not only the political leaders, but the American people are right there with them, too.
Okay. Well, President Donald Trump voiced strong support. So how does this shift his standing after weeks of criticism over the shutdown's impact?
That really depends a lot on where you are ideologically to start with. The Republicans will call it the Schumer shutdown. The Democrats will call it the Trump shutdown. And everyone just wants to point fingers at one another. And so for the hardcore partisans that are out there, the people that are extremely supportive of one side or another or one ideology or another, they'll certainly blame each other for what has happened here. But what it comes down to, though, is the American people, the ones that are just trying to focus on making sure that their families are fed, that their children are cared for, and they can have gas in their car and pay their bills on time. They're going to point fingers at all of Washington, at all these politicians to say, we need to figure out this plan, and you got to work together, or else we're going to have to send other people to Washington. And at the end of the day, I do think that the Republicans probably get an edge out over this. We did see a lot of more progressive candidates win in these last elections here a few weeks ago. But I do think that overall, Donald Trump and the Republicans have said over and over that they want to make the government get back open again. And it was the Democrats who are really stalling that process.
Well, speaking of the Democrats, some progressive Democrats have denounced the deal as a surrender. What risks does this pose for party unity heading into 2026?
The Democrat Party is going to face an identity crisis like no other. What we saw happen in New York with the Democratic Socialists and Mondami. We've seen Ocasio-Cortez that's likely to give a challenge to Chuck Schumer, the Senate leader for the Democrats. The progressive Democrats, the extreme left wing of the party, is going to try to take over, and the more moderate, the more reasonable voices in that party are quickly losing their status. They're quickly losing the ability to influence policy and politics, and so I think we're going to see a widening of the differences between Republicans and Democrats. And so these the centrists, those people that are usually the ones to go and compromise, are going to become fewer and fewer when you're looking at the left side of the spectrum. And instead, we're going to see a much more aggressive, a much more dominant progressive side of the party that is probably going to start to win elections. But unfortunately, the governing from that side is going to be much, much, much more difficult. So I think that we're going to see the Democrats having a very difficult time in the short term and the longer term, too. They're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do.
Mr. Dan Rene, political researcher, joining us from the United States. Thank you so much for your perspective and analysis on this pivotal development. Two democracies, two tests of governance, each under a different kind of pressure. Here in Egypt, electoral order seeks to affirm institutional stability and national engagement. In the United States, shutdown deal exposes the strains of political division and the cost of partisan gridlock. Yet both stories converge on one central truth. Legitimacy depends not just on rules or results, but also on the public's faith in how those results are earned. That's in focus for tonight. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.